In this lecture, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about folder and file structure and how you would organize your different components in these folders in a Vue application, because there's many different ways you can do this, and how you structure your different folders and files is entirely up to you. I would just always make sure it's constant and logical. Now, for smaller projects with just a handful of pages, I would tend to stick to this default setup where all of my route components are inside this views folder. So if I had another page like a contact page, I would make a contact view file inside the views folder for it. Now sometimes I'd also create subfolders for different pages as well to group route components or subcomponents together where needed. For example, if I had a page which was a list of jobs, then I might create a jobs component first of all, like this. And let's just flesh out this component, and inside the object down here we'll have some data, and inside the data we need to return an object, and I'm going to create a jobs property which is an array of data. Now I'm just going to paste in 3 objects here. So we have a job title for each one, an ID, and some details which are not very descriptive in this case, but we have some data, and let's say we want to cycle through that data now. First of all, let's do an H1 to say jobs, and then under that I'm going to cycle through the data with a div, and I'm going to say v-4 on this div, and we're cycling through the jobs, so I'll call each individual job a job and say in jobs. Remember, when we use v4 we need a key property which must be unique for each job, and that's why I created this ID property right here. So we'll set it equal to job.id. We have access to job because we have it right here, and then inside that all I'm going to do is output the job title inside an H2, so job.title. Alright, so we have this component for the jobs page. We'd also need to register that route. So let's do that over here inside the, oops, not that one, the index.js file. At the bottom, I'm going to create another object, and I will say path is /jobs, and the name of this component is going to be jobs, and the component we use is going to be jobs. And we also need to import that at the top. So let me duplicate this and change about to jobs like so. Now, if I save this and go to /jobs, I'm going to get this jobs component. Before I do that, I'm going to go to the app component over here, and I want to add now another link in the nav to go to the jobs page. So let me come down here and do another router link like so, and then I need to bind to the to attribute and set it equal to an object, because we're going to use this structure right here instead of using the path. And the name of the route is jobs. That's what I called it inside this file right here. So I want this to say jobs, and then we need to close off that router link as well. Okay, so if I save this and preview, we can see we have jobs over here as well. And if I click on this, we see all of those jobs. So all of that is working. But now let's get back to the folder structure. So imagine if we were to click on one of these jobs on the page, then we might link to a job details route, which would show a job details component, and that would list details of that particular job. So we need a job details component, right? So we could create that in here like this, job details.view. Now it's at this point I might consider creating a subfolder inside views, because this job details component and this jobs component, they're kind of related. They use the same data, and they're going to be in the same kind of area on the website when it comes to URL structure. So I would probably create a new folder and call that jobs, and then I would place jobs.view in there and job details in there. Now notice when I did that, I get an error over here because it's not found that component inside the route file. And that's because we're trying to import it from the top level of views. So we need to change this as well. So jobs and then /jobs.view. And if we save that, now it should work. So this just makes our folder structure a little bit more organized, especially for larger sites with many different components and views. And this is the structure I'm mainly going to be using for routes or view components in the rest of this course. Also, I'll be using the components folder up here for any reusable components that can be nested into our view components. Now, these would be for things like modules or custom button components that we make, or maybe a card component, or anything else which really isn't page specific. It doesn't belong to a specific page, and it can be used in a number of different views. So all those kind of reusable components will be going inside there. And again, it may be at some point that we have subfolders for certain types of reusable components inside here as well. So that's it as far as folder structure goes. We'll talk more about the route for the job details right here in the next lecture.